We'll get started in here just in a minute. I'm counting my steering committee members. Great. I've got Shelby. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. It's nice to see everyone. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon. And I'll do a quick roll call of our steering committee members. And I've got Marcia Roby.
Here.
Thank you. Greg Walsh.
I'm here.
Great. Lyda Scoggin.
Here.
Matt Fogarty. Okay. Danny. Oh, thanks, Matt. Danny Steyer.
Yep.
Great, thank you. And Shelby Leon.
Here.
Thanks, Shelby. All right. And like to welcome, we've got Kim DeFore from North Valley Community Foundation with us, and Clint Cobley, as well as additional participants. So thanks for joining us. May I please have a motion for an approval of today's agenda, please?
I so move, Marcia.
Thank you, Marcia. And a second?
Lyda will
Shelby will
second.
second.
Okay, we got Lyda first there. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed? It's none. All right, thank you very much. Next item, approval of the January 6th, 2025 meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve that, please?
I move.
Thank you, Greg.
Shelby will second that.
Thank you, Shelby. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, great. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll go ahead and roll right into public input. So Clint is joining us, and about 30 minutes ago, I sent you all a proposal. Clint and Roger Diefendorf, who's the executive director of the Plumas County Community Development Commission, they'll be back the first week of February when we meet on February 3rd with a more formal proposal and grant request. But what I sent out to you about 30 minutes ago, that'll serve as kind of just some background information, reference material that you can apprise yourself of between now and then we'll kind of hear more from both Clint and Roger. If you recall, they joined us at a December meeting where they indicated that they were working on a program to develop funding for a down payment assistance program here in Plymouth County. The down payment assistance would essentially work as a grant for eligible home buyers to then apply that towards their down payment to then have a single family dwelling here somewhere in Plymouth County. So Clint, with that, there's just a little bit of an intro, but I'm happy to turn it over to you if you want to just kind of fill in the blanks there and share any additional information on that.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and hi, everybody, and happy belated New Year. Happy, well, I hope you're having a great Martin Luther King Day, and it's also inauguration of a new president, so there's a lot to celebrate today. So, yes, as Patrick said, Roger Diefendorf and I made a draft presentation back in December, and we've worked long and hard on it to get a lot more information. What Patrick sent out to you will hopefully fill up some of those gaps. I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions, but as Patrick told me the other day, giving you 2 weeks to read it, digest it, come prepared with questions on February 3rd, I believe is the first Monday in February when Roger and I plan to be there to answer questions on it. So anyway, through a lot of our research, we've looked at, wildfire communities, even communities like Truckee who haven't had really wildfires, but have had major, housing challenges and things like that. We've just seen that the down payment assistance program has worked extremely well in many communities. So we've kind of hung our hat on that, and we certainly don't want this to be the only housing assistance program in Plumas County, and in particular, the burn scar areas like, Indian Valley, we feel that, whether it's this program or if it's other programs that are being advocated by the Plumas Housing Council, there's a number of great programs out there. There's more programs out there than I think one entity can probably run all by themselves. And it's time to probably, join forces, work together, pool whatever resources we can to make as much housing happen as possible. It's an uphill battle, costs are still high. Even if you can make housing affordable, it's going to be really difficult with the FAIR Plan and things like that. The LA fires aren't going to make the FAIR Plan rates go down. If anything, they may go up. So we still have a lot of challenges. My hope is that through all of this, especially like when I look at what happened in Paradise with their down payment assistance program, my hope is that we can attract young families. Obviously, we would take any family in Plumas County at this point, but I think young families would be great. Put kids in our schools, people in our customers in our stores, and help bring some energy back into our county, and maybe start turning the negative population statistics around a little bit, because we've lost well over 1,000 students total from our peak in 2000. We're losing population across the county, and by the year 2060, we're projected to lose another 30%, or almost 7,000 more people, leaving this county with only about 13,000 people. That scares me. I don't know what's going to be left of this county with only 13,000 people. So I think the time is to roll up our shirt sleeves, work together, come up with every and any program that'll work. So we've looked at what they're doing in Paradise and other places, and Roger has been the executive director, I think, of the Plumas County Community Development Commission for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, something like that. So his agency runs the Section 8 housing program in 4 counties, including Plumas. So he's very familiar with housing and guidelines, and of course, access to grants, whether it's state and federal and things like this here. And he feels confident that if we can get an amount from Plumas County, if we can get an amount from the Fire Collaborative to get the program started, that he can leverage at least $2 million more to put towards this program. So we'll give you more details, obviously, in 2 weeks. But thank you again, Patrick, for allowing me to speak, and thank you for sending that narrative out that I sent you earlier today. So please take a look. You can call me or email me anytime. We'll love to hear from you. It's great to see your faces again. So thank you.
Great, Clint. Yeah, thanks a lot. And Clint and I briefly talked on Friday afternoon, and just with the mindset that this is kind of like a layered approach, right? There's
Oh, yes.
and this is
it's-
whether it's housing or just if we think about our other lines of effort, there's a variety of trains that have left the station, and they're all kind of on different paths, but sometimes there's some overlap because one thing will enable and support another thing, right? So housing here can and will support some of our business and economic opportunities. The business and economic opportunities can then in turn support housing and community development in and around our schools and healthcare sectors and things of that nature. So there's a variety of things. None of these things are exclusive, to one another. They support one another. They're mutually supporting. So this is, this could be something that is another enabling objective to get to other places. So
Yeah, Patrick, you're exactly right. Most of the successful places have used leveraging or stacking, whether it's just one program where they stack a number of different funds, or whether they stack program onto program onto program. Either way, we have to leverage all of the resources we can, and leverage or stack our approach to, because not one program is going to be the silver bullet. We all know that. So hopefully if we all come up with great ideas and bring in, additional resources, we can start to make a dent in things. So you're exactly right, Patrick.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us, Clint. And he and Roger will follow up with us in 2 weeks at our February 3rd meeting.
Okay, great.
All right. So the next item, we did have a grant request that was submitted into the grant portal. And I know Kim was aware of this and had worked with the team. So this grant overall is submitted by the high school boosters, Greenville High School Boosters. Some of you may know that over the last year, the high school transitioned from being operated by Plymouth Unified School District. And then Plymouth Charter School took control of the 7-12 program at the junior senior high school. And then the district still operates the elementary school, kindergarten through 6th grade. So between the two programs, they operate on the school campus where we've held our meetings and whatnot. So this grant is submitted on behalf of their athletic boosters program, the Indian Valley Recreation and Parks District, as well as the school that's there as well. Plymouth Charter School, also known as Indian Valley Academy. That's their site name is Indian Valley Academy, but they fall underneath Plymouth Charter School. So the goal of this grant, and hopefully I had a chance to read it, but really in short order between the boosters being able to provide facilities for the students, of course, but then house it as but use the school campus as a community center, essentially. Then the Indian Valley Recreation and Parks District would be able to then do the programming. Because one of the things that they've been kind of searching around in the woods for is a facility in lieu of anything, and whether or not a community center, a resilience center, a community resilience center, a whatever you want to call it, when and how that gets built, that's not going to happen anytime soon. And the funding for that is difficult, and the contribution from Plymouth County is still, remains to be seen and or up in the air. The most promising thing that the county has talked about is a library. And if anybody that's been looking at recent library builds over the last, 5 years, let's call it a decade, libraries as public spaces have really turned into more multifunctional buildings, where not only are you using it for library, what we all know and love from libraries, but then can provide community resources at the same time. So that's the vision, and that may come along at some point, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So in lieu of that, the charter school they have space, and they have an area that they've been using as a quote unquote gym, but it's pretty it's pretty, there's not a lot of stuff in there, and it's okay. But for their athletic program, they would like to build that out. Having a fitness and health area, especially for a lot of our active seniors, I know is something that's been asked about, talked about. We do have a very vibrant and active senior population that 5 to 6 months out of the year would like a warm place to stretch and be mobile and to maintain relative fitness when the inclement weather sets in. So that's another attribute of this idea. So it helps youth, it helps seniors, and then of course just adults, middle-aged residents as well that can benefit from this. I think another attribute of this is the opportunity to at least have a small workforce associated with it in the form of instructors and then available staff that the district, the school, the recreation department, and then of course like independent vendors and contractors. I'm thinking of those that are instructors that can provide arts classes and fitness classes, whether that be yoga or Zumba or dance. Or one of the benefits of our old community center is that there were a number of vendors that were able to provide their classes there. And so there was little children's gymnastics, there was adult martial arts, there was I believe there was like a Zumba thing that happened there, and yoga and so on and so forth. So it would be nice to be able to get some of that stuff back up and going, and then see where that goes. Like, see by having a facility, see where that can lead to in terms of longer term sustainable programs and facilities here in Greenville. You saw the attached budget. One thing that stuck out to me that I had some questions on, because it seemed fairly expensive, was they wanted to purchase a golf simulator. Anybody that knows anything about golf, these things have become sort of the next greatest thing for indoor golf, because they are so hyper realistic with regard to what you can do with them, instead of just sort of, I don't know, like when I was growing up, we had a friend who had a parachute hung in a garage that would just tee off into the parachute. This is vastly different than that. And the point that was brought up is that this could actually be a revenue driver, and it brings people. We have a very robust golf community in Chester, Lake Almanor. We have a very robust golf community in Gray Eagle, Portola area. This could actually help bring people from in county, not always looking to bring people out of county, but other county folks during those inclement weather months as a little bit of an economic driver to sustain the program, having a nominal fee where people can rent and use that space with the golf community that we do have here in county. So that's a pretty good idea. Okay. Kim, did you have anything from your knowledge of this program?
Just in my conversations with Sue Weber is the fact that what they're looking for from both organizations is kind of the startup money to purchase all the supplies to put into the makerspace and the fitness center, and that the Indian Valley Rec and Park District feels like they have adequate funding to continue to staff this facility. For the interim, in money that they have collected from the insurance company, they feel like they have adequate staffing dollars, and then they will eventually receive a PG&E settlement. And their goal, from what Sue said to me, would that PG&E settlement eventually could probably be put into some type of an endowment, that then the money generated from that would constantly generate money, so they would have staffing dollars to keep this fitness center and the makerspace and this whole area, kind of keep it. So it's, because you can't really put together a facility like this and not have it adequately staffed, and obviously it sounds like the school would be using it during the day, but the community would be using it on evenings and weekends, and, it would have to be staff space. So that was one of the things she shared with me, is that their board feels comfortable that they would be able to sustain the project. The other thing that she shared with me, really kind of about the involvement of the Greenville High School boosters. One of the reasons that they're bringing the proposal together is they would have the ability to take the money and quickly go purchase the supplies. Whereas if the Indian Valley Park and Rec District, or the charter school or Office of Ed, just because of them being governmental agencies, it would be a lot more complex for them to request the money from us, and then us to give the money for them, and then them to, purchase the supplies. This would be their goal, I believe, is to get this up and running in the next couple months. And that with Greenville High School, they would kind of be the intermediary to take the funds and then make sure that the items gets purchased. And but then but the items will be owned by Indian Valley Park and Recreation District. So if at any point in time the school needs a space back, or a new community center gets built and there's a fitness center in there, that it would be Indian Valley, and Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, that it would be Indian Valley Park and Rec District that would have the ownership of the equipment that's being purchased.
Yeah, that was my understanding. That way they keep it also for insurance purposes, right? So if there's any theft or damage or whatever it is, then there's one entity that bears the insurance risk on it. And that was another piece to it. The boosters, since it's an all volunteer organization, right? And yeah, they have their own insurance for little events that they do at the school, whether it be fundraising events or like running the concession stand and things of that nature. They can obviously shepherd a lot of that, but since this is going to be staffed and maintained by the recreation department, then they're kind of the champions of it, with these other elements being partners. It works out well that, the space would be then available in the evenings. And I don't know about mornings, like like before the bell rings. Like I think there was chatter about being able to keep it open like from like 6 to 8 for early morning classes, right? So if adults want to go in to do something, like get a workout in before their day starts, I think they'd be afforded that opportunity. It's really during the school hours, I think that is the main concern, just because of like, security and safety and just who's about, and that want to be able to have cognizance of who's on campus during the school day. So that was something that was discussed. Yeah, those are the big items. So discussion, thoughts, concerns. Matt, yes, go ahead. I got Matt and then Danny. You're muted, Matt.
Yeah, sorry. Regarding the maker space, there's already like a wood shop that I don't know if anyone's using in the school. And then is there like a demonstrated need for a maker space? Because a lot of people have equipment in the garage, and like a lot of people have a lot of tools already. Do we know that's a good use of funds, and how do we know that?
Yeah, so the actual wood shop is still owned by Plymouth Unified School District, and they have not what's the right word? Granted the charter school use of the wood shop. So right now it's just sitting vacant. There is talk that maybe next year, like as their partnership develops, that in another year or two, that the wood shop, I think it's an entire like wood and metal shop. That's been discussed. We asked about that last year, in fact, because I was driving up to Westwood High School to take a welding class, like an adult welding class. I'm like, why can't we just do this in Greenville? And it just because of that partnership that had started, the school district was not ready to let go of that shop. But yeah, that's something that could potentially come online, Matt, with actual power tools. I think my understanding of this makerspace is more like arts and crafts related. So we're not talking table saws and drill presses. We're talking like painting and ceramics and things of that nature for not only youth after school programs, but then adult programs as well. So it's just a different function than what you described.
3D printing. 3D printing as well.
Yeah, 3D printing. Yeah, so smaller scale stuff, not macro like wood and metal stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Danny Starr.
Yeah, Matt, actually, with Marcia piping in about that 3D printer, I didn't see a 3D printer, any 3D supplies on that budget at all.
They
that's
already
a concern.
Just an add-on. They already possess those things, so they have, I think, 2 3D printers and
Okay.
Yeah.
But I see they have a CNC, so that's more along the lines of metalwork and such, and too, the CNC and woodwork, so that could be used for that. So that's a kind of an issue there. But I'm out and out will challenge, or am challenging the golf simulator. It's 70% of their budget, and the justification seems weak at best. I think the people who might use that are part-time residents of Gray Eagle, part-time residents of the Peninsula and Chester area. They're not the full-time residents. And then it's all the question of, what is that nominal fee, which could justify and keep that available for those that want to use it. So that's that jumped out at me just as it jumped out at you, Patrick, is what that is. So, I did get some answers. I had some questions along that makerspace. What other things were there? But I think that's answered. was that, I think I saw some rollers looking at that, the fitness equipment. Would that be for bicycles? Is that what that is? Or is that somebody can get on a bicycle ride and such or not? But that would be something, probably that could be useful. I'm not sure.
Which one was it, Danny? Which was your?
There was a line items down towards the end. I think it's, yeah, just above the sandbags. There's, I saw it somewhere in there. I have to go back, but I thought I saw rollers. I wasn't sure what that was.
Oh, those are extra, like, so foam rollers, right? So like,
Oh.
like kind of physical therapy rollers, right?
All right,
where
so
kind of
you
roll
lay
out.
on and such. You lay on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, but an idea would be there's those rollers that you can actually set a bike on, front wheel and back wheel on, and you can get on a ride, stationary.
Oh,
but
yeah, like a stationary, yeah, yeah. I
But you
think
could,
there was, they have a salt bike on here. That's
Right, but-
kind of like a stationary bike, and then there's
Yeah.
the Concept 2 Bike Earth, which is
Yeah.
another stationary bike.
but
yeah,
but
no,
the one thing where you can actually do your balance too, as well as riding and such on that, and it gives you more of a feel for riding, just as an idea of equipment in there. So I would rather see, I can see that because that goes more towards fitness than a golf simulator in my mind.
Hey, Danny, how much is the golf simulator? I don't have the budget in front of me.
30K.
Okay.
So it's 12% of the budget. Or no, 17.15% of the budget. So, I have some questions too. It's interesting down on when they in the Dixie Fire Connection, they have a comment. All students who reside in Plumas County, Burns County will be able to participate in use of the facility and programs offered through the Parks District. But then in the last statement says, it is our hope that this center will have an additional benefit for those visiting our area, opportunities to utilize both the fitness center, golf center, and programs being offered. And when you think hope, there is no commitment in hope. You know, it's just a hope. It's like a throwaway. It's like there's no commitment saying we will provide this. So, and then there still is, you know, but so who will be able to access? You know, is it full-time residents, part-time residents only? But there in that statement says, you know, hope that others that come to visit might be able to use it. What sort of payment structure would there be? Would there be a different payment structure? And in that statement, there's no comment about the makerspace being available to people to come to visit the area. So in that line, the makerspace is excluded, either intentionally or unintentionally. So those are kind of my comments. You know, what about part-time residents? What about the fee structure? Would it be different for different people? And is there a commitment? I'd rather see a commitment rather than a hope. Like I say, if it's just a hope, we can just take that whole line out of their proposal. That's my comments at this point.
Okay, yeah, no problem, Danny. I'm sure we can get some follow-up on that. Greg, go ahead.
So, so this is going into the school, the high school, and excuse me, and they're going to have to work around the school schedule. Like it's either it only exists before or after school.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, I mean, again, if we had more buildings, it'd be great that if we didn't have to do
Yeah, I
that.
know.
Since, I mean, like, you know, there's just not a lot of facilities in this area right now. And, you know, in order to get something programmatically started, I don't necessarily think that this is it's a bad idea. You know,
No, I don't
like
think
the
so.
Roundhouse Council for the last 3 years used the school to support the Roundhouse until they could build their building, right? So there's kind of like, that was like a similar idea, right?
What part of the building is it going into?
So there's you know, where
fitness
the library is. It's
Uh-huh.
basically on the other side of the wall of the library where we hold the meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just I don't know. I was trying to imagine it's not going into the gym, so I was trying to figure out where it was going to go.
Yeah, so there's a corridor by the, you know, so there's that gym parking lot.
Mhm.
And then there's an all the corridors are outside, or at least, not all, I guess, but the classroom corridors, they have access, underneath the outdoor awnings. So it's along an axis there, is the identified spot.
Okay.
Do you have, some other questions, Greg?
No, I think that this was I think basically it's a good idea, given especially that we don't know that the big project is whether it's going to be funded or go in. I wish we had a different building for it, so that it could be so that they could gather during the day. You know what I mean? But we don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wish we did too.
Yeah.
I wish we had a dozen more buildings, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Kim.
Yeah, that does kind of bring up a question that now that I kind of have, Greg, I think was your question of would or could the fitness center be open during the day to community people? In other words, if the school and the kids aren't using it for certain times during the day because they're doing classes, could it still be open to community members to come and use the fitness center? Or is the idea that, no, that community people could only come like after 4, but that.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll get some follow-up on that. My assumption is that it wasn't explicitly stated here, but my assumption was when last summer, or I'm sorry, last spring, talking about moving the resource center onto that campus, because the resource center had to close in Crescent Mills. The pushback was that the resource center wasn't gonna be able to provide any services during the day because of students on campus. So that could just be my own projection of when they were talking to the school about utilizing the space for a resource center, that kind of a non-starter was the daytime hours because of school being in session. But there could be a different arrangement that was developed here, but we can find out. Marcia?
Yeah, Sue took me on a tour of that maker space in back of the library, and she's got a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of really interesting things that she wants to go in there. And I really like the whole idea, except for I have to say I was really surprised about the golf machine. And I wonder if they had already looked at other rec areas or anything else like us that had utilized a golf machine and what it had brought, by having people come from other cities or communities, if that had worked well for other communities, or was it just kind of like a pie in the sky idea? Let's do a golf machine because it is really
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, and I don't know. We could ask. I was thinking that it may have been the latter, at first. And maybe it was. But I did specifically ask about that because of the significant price tag to it. Danny, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a quick I got 2 things. One on that golf simulator, it could be if the school's looking to start a golf team.
They have one.
Yeah.
They do have a golf team. That's
Maybe they're gonna highly utilization there, so maybe they pay more of it then. But the other thing is on the people on campus with students. That's from my understanding as a professor and a dean at college and such, and looking around, that's just a non-starter. You can't have unvetted people on campus, and the thing that people would have to go through in order to have access to the campus while you have students on there. I think there's a huge liability.
Yeah.
So that's probably what they're avoiding.
yeah.
Right,
But
right.
we can get. I mean, that's one easy enough to get us some follow-up on.
Right. Okay.
All right, so what I'm going to recommend is right now we'll just table this. We'll get some answers to those questions. I did contact Sue Weber to see if she could join us, and she was in another meeting. So that's fine. And then also I'll see if I can get Megan Neer and Kaylee Bentz, who's also on our steering committee. He's on the boosters as well. And I know that he's aware of this idea as well. So I thought Kaylee was actually gonna be here and could actually shed some light from the boosters perspective, but that's all right.
Yes, Sue mentioned Kaylee was one of the people who kind of helped put the list together for the fitness.
That was my understanding, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Lida, you have your hand up? You're muted, Lida.
Okay, is it there now?
I got you loud and clear.
Okay. I'm also interested in the funding aspect of it, that I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of speculation about how the staffing would be paid for. Theoretically from insurance proceeds. And I'm not sure that I'm real comfortable with that amount of vagueness in terms of, being able to staff it over the long term, and whether there's any plan for membership fees or anything along those lines that would help defray those costs. And so that's one concern I have. And I also have some concerns about the golf simulator. I think that's it sounds, as I think Danny put it, more of a pie in the sky concept, that we're going to get people from Chester and Westwood and wherever else to come and use a golf simulator at like from 4 to 6 at night, or maybe even 7 to 8 in the morning, if that's an option. I'd like to see some other information about how those things are used in other places, or something that's a little more concrete about how that could be useful.
Yeah, no worries. I think I've got everyone's questions, concerns, and comments jotted down here. We'll get that over to the team that submitted the grant, and then what we can probably do is just follow up on this on the 3rd. Does that work for everyone? Okay. Cool. Any other saved comments on that one? Anything before we move on? Okay. I just wanted to provide an update from last week. And Matt can kind of chime in here when able. But over the last week, Matt and we met with Catherine Sansone, who is a public relations consultant, and she works with the Almanor Foundation. We also met with Josie Litchfield, who she runs her business called Kata Marketing. And then I met with a woman by the name of Samantha, and she runs a business called Bliss Branding and Marketing. So the kind of the differences here is that Catherine's PR business is more related to that. It's really more public relations, but she kind of thinks holistically about marketing and advertising, and then just messaging overall. So that was good to kind of bend her ear a little bit on what has been developing as the business marketing grant opportunity. And if you recall, that had opportunities for both physical signage based off of the needs of the business, and then some digital marketing and or like social media assistance to get businesses up and running, and then just get their sort of digital footprint healthy, so they could probably take the reins in 3 to 6 months and kind of do it themselves, or determine if at that point they can go it alone and pay for a service from anybody that they enjoy doing business with. So the last week and a half has really been about like information gathering and proposals of just understanding what each organization can provide, and just getting their quote or their estimate for what services they could provide. And then also how this would be structured potentially with the Indian Valley Chamber of Commerce as really the champion of this project, to work with businesses that ideally one day become chamber members, but even if they're not a chamber member, being able to get a little bit of love. The chamber does have some restrictions on that, in their bylaws, they only support businesses that are chamber members. But we're discussing about a percentage, like if the Dixie Fire Collaborative created a grant that granted money to the chamber, that they would take this work on writ large of the businesses in the county or in the area, and then at a certain time, whether it be 3, 6, 9 months, whatever the determined amount from the experts here of what they need to get these marketing themes underway, when that would whatever that timeline would be. So the actual physical signage probably is one of the easier or less expensive components of this. It looks like, depending on the needs from the businesses that we've discussed, we're looking at anywhere between $500 to $700 for a refurbished or brand new sign in some cases, to help support them, with a nod towards something that kind of brightens and freshens up their look, but also that in certain cases might be temporary based off of what they have right now for their business. So not wanting to go into like a full a new edifice and like this whole structure that may one day just have to be moved or torn down or something, because they're ready to build a brick and mortar shop, store, business, whatever, and then there's this thing in their way that they can't get around. So we were thinking a little bit about that, but something a little bit more permanent than, say, like a vinyl banner that kind of flaps around in the wind after a couple storms and then breaks and then you never see it again. So something a hybrid in between. And been got just a rough estimate from Wild Hair Signs in Quincy, who does this type of work in a variety of different mediums. And it sounds like that's definitely doable. The next part of it would then be based off of the scope of work of what we described to these 3 businesses, Sansone, Kata, and Bliss, what they can provide. All 3 have unique options, and they all provide different. There's a lot of similarities, but then there's just some nuances that make one interesting or preferred in this way as opposed to the other. I will say that so Bliss Branding, they work with a number of Plymouth County businesses, as does Kata. So Josie down in Quincy, she's got a number of businesses that she's already working with here in Plymouth County. And then Bliss Branding does as well. And Bliss Branding also does the website for the Chamber of Commerce, the La Sierra Chamber Coalition, the Feather River Tourism Board, which I think they just changed their name to like the Plymouth County Tourism Board, or vice versa. So Bliss kind of has like a pretty good understanding of the area. Actually, all 3 of them do, right? Because they, but Bliss, I would say, like she's got like 15 people that work for her. And when she was throwing out some of the bells and whistles of just everything from cookies to caching and how it works and how to elevate your website online and the things that they can do to kind of coach a search criteria on behalf of like would-be visitors and things. It was pretty interesting. There's a lot going on out there that I don't know that everybody realizes every time you go to a website. All the back end work that where we're all leaving our data all over the place. So anyway, it was a good conversation. But really, right now, everything's still out, right? So all 3 of those, whether it be Sansone, Kata, or Bliss, they're all developing like a quote or an estimate. So I don't have any raw numbers to give you on what that budgeting would look like, on supplementing the physical part, the signage, with what we could then work to just kind of, with the chamber, be able to provide for a number of businesses. So yeah, that's still forthcoming, but good conversations regardless. And I think we're getting closer to the X on this one. Matt, what do you have?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I really liked Josie's the conversation with Josie, and there we did kind of put out a number of, it could be like $1,000 per client plus the cost of the signage, which could be 1,000 or 2,000, something like that. And starting off with 10 clients in Q1 could be a budget of between 20 and 30 grand. So, and that would get us going with the emphasis on getting their signage better and then their social media basics.
Yeah, and the basics, when I was talking to, and Josie touched on this to some degree, and as did Samantha from Bliss, is that you know, part of their business model is that they definitely teach people to fish, right? So they don't just like let them flail, like they don't, you know, take on everything and say, well, I'll do it all. Like they definitely show them the ropes with effective ways to do this on their own. Not to the like, you know, I mean, to some degree, it's this is their business, right? So they do, you know, want to make sure they have clients. But at the same time, there's so much to this that, you know, I mean, that's why they're the professionals, right? Like you literally can spend all day reinforcing digitally and through social media and on websites and through a variety of other ways, knowledge and information about your business to the point where it does increase your revenue. So yeah, it's interesting stuff, and it's kind of the sky's the limit here. So once I actually have some hard and fast numbers from all three of them, and Matt the same, then we'll actually kind of put it into more of a formal proposal so everybody can see it, and then make some decisions on you know, what's financially permissible, what's legally permissible, and then work with the Chamber of Commerce to actually submit their grant proposal to work the pieces that they've been talking about doing as well. Yes, Danny, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just looking at, web presence and this type of things, I hear exactly what you're saying is, even if they are the professionals to have some hand in it, for things to be successful, and if you want webs, you want things changing, you want it live, you want it dynamic, you don't want things to ever to get stale. So the business owners, business people should be trained and worked with in order to help do that, because they're going to be the ones that could quickly turn stuff and keep it alive. And that's the biggest thing about web stuff is don't let it get stale. Once you get stale, you lose traffic. So
Yeah,
my comments.
yeah. Any other thoughts?
Thank you so much for doing all that work. That's really helpful.
Yeah, that's part of the job. I get paid for it and everything. But no, thanks, Marcia. Yeah. And yeah, Matt as well has been kind of brainstorming on this. And we'd like to get something, done and ready to go so that we can kind of spring on this, no later than, I was thinking at the latest May. And even talking to one of the consultants, her take was like, hey, don't, get it done by March, April, right? So you're ready to go, because she said, not only for in-county consumers, but people when they start searching, she's like, you wanna capture people when they start searching for their summer weekend trips and their summer to go see family and fishing and hiking and biking and all the things. So if you can capitalize off, and she's got data to support that people do that in April, right? So that like you want it done in April, before April, as people are start to forecast their June, July, August plans, even that's a really good tip, right? To know when people are actually creating their summer travel plans. So anyway, pretty neat. All right. The next item on the agenda that I wanted to discuss, we sort of talked a little bit about it on the January 6th meeting, but it was really more just kind of like a heads up, just to start to think about this 2025 year and sort of existentially where the DFC is, where it wants to go or not. And I think, with the team that we have here, we can definitely kind of like shape this to some degree. I think at one point I'm gonna have to make sure that we get everybody all together at one point over here, and like sooner than later, just to understand where everybody is at with the DFC. But just kind of a scene setter. August, September of 23, when I was hired, at least the sentiment then was probably 2 years. That's what this coordinator position was budgeted for, with not only the salary, but then an operating budget for, things to run like the website and buy paper clips, right? So there was a contribution made from both the DFC and North Valley Community Foundation that to create the DFC Coordinator Fund, which is, again, it's basically the HR related things for this job. And that was going to be a funding cycle for up to 2 years. So that would take it to about August of 25. So we're about 6, 7 months away from there. Again, the position doesn't have to go away. My intent beyond anything beyond that is I don't want to work for the DFC permanently. My goal is to go do other things career-wise. However, if the steering committee though wanted to refund that or continue to fund that position, then we would have to start to take a look at the regular DFC fund to see what other contribution could be made. And then also if North Valley Community Foundation would do something similar of, providing for a percentage of the coordinator fund again. So that's one thing. Or, the coordinator position doesn't look the same way. At that point, is the Dixie Fire Fund to a dollar amount that's, I don't know if, Danny, at the last community meeting, we talked roughly, unobligated funding was just over $700,000. So if the picture by this summer, if we're down to like, $150,000, then do you have somebody that you're able to pay on a part-time basis, right? To help conduct basically like a meeting secretary, to help be a conduit with North Valley Community Foundation and set up a Zoom link, do minutes, do agenda, and then keep the volunteer steering committee in the know, really just with the remaining funds of whatever that dollar amount is, and then within your own networks and sourcing, to continue to provide grant funding to that till it gets to $0. That's another option. Up to this point, the DFC we've never really done fundraising, right? We've never actively sought additional funds other than the fund amount that we have. There's nice folks from Chico that the last 2 years they've given us a $1,500 donation. But outside of that, this organization, it has not been a requirement to go try to gain more dollars than what was initially given to the DFC in the form of the settlement from the district attorney. So if that is something that the team wants to do, then that's a significant shift in role and capability too, right? That's all day, every day fundraising in order to get the types of dollars that you would want to have to make something long-term sustainable. So these are just a couple thoughts that have been rattling around in my brain. And I don't know if anybody else has a consensus, or not a consensus, but a thought or an idea.
Yeah. Just
Danny, go ahead.
just a quick thought, Patrick, to kind of follow up in your comments. I'm looking at, we have about 1/4 of the funds that come in left. That's basically what you're saying. We got 1/4. So, so actually 24% of the funds left. And then, so the question is, do we strive to distribute that and say that we've done our duties, or in order to do more, we have to, as you're saying, is most likely go ahead and start looking for additional funds as things go forward, and just kind of looking at the biggest thing that I've seen so far, of late, has been the canopy project that's been going on with bringing trees in and such. That seems to be something that's probably, I see that's going to come around and need some additional funding. And, that's not a whole lot. We could probably sustain that for a couple more rounds, but what other things, and that's what we have to think of as a steering committee itself here. Can we do our job and not say that our job is to expend the funds, but to invest those funds judiciously and as we should, and would we be in fact out of funds by August, or close to out of funds, or into a point where we don't need somebody, a paid position to coordinate it. And I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what Patrick's you're saying.
Yeah. And so I've been reaching out to other community organizations because I see, the other entities here in Indian Valley and beyond that have, interesting projects that they want to get off the ground here in 25, right? So like the Dawn Institute, they have some, in order to get the Dawn Institute up and going in Indian Falls, they have some needs, but they just haven't quite kind of hit the nail on the head with what it is. So I know that they've started an account in the grant portal and they're thinking about what they're trying to gather together their information for specifically what they think they need grant funding for to reinvigorate their program, right? Friends of Warner Valley, Lida and I had a good conversation last week about some of their needs up in Warner Valley. I need to follow up with the Rotary again, but I think the Greenville Rotary has some projects they want to get going and they may need some funding, but that we're talking like tens of thousands there, not like hundreds of thousands. The Blue Star Moms, so the Wolf Creek, the Greenville Wolf Creek Blue Star Moms, right? So they are mothers of current service members, right? They're the ones that invested in the veteran banners or the service member banners that hang along Highway 89 with the streetscape. They want to do another round of that, so they may put it in for grant funding. Again, that's probably like $5,000 to $10,000, not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've followed up with the American Legion a number of times to see if they have needs on their build, to see if there's anything that we can support there. But I'm going to keep doing that because I heard that they may need some like walkways and landscaping that they may come showed up. Anyway, these are the types of things that I think, this is where some of the money here could do a lot of good to help our other organizations that they're 80, 90% of the way there, and they just need a little bit more oomph to get over the finish line. So that's just something to also keep in the back of your mind. Yes, Matt, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I would suggest that we do not go for more grant funding because obviously we've got a lot of money and we're finding it hard to spend. And also the other non-profits around us have got like loads of money as well and just got even more money and they don't know what to do with it either. So let's not go and get more grants and let's try and spend down the 700 grand before your exit. So we've got 700 grand, 7 months. So we've got to do 100,000 a month. So if this month we've got the sports thing and the what was the other thing? I mean if we've got the sports thing and the business thing is like 100 grand, something like that.
Like take a look at the down payment assistance too. I mean, that could be
Sure.
there's a healthy dollar.
500,000.
They're asking
Right,
for
exactly. There's a lot in there. So we've got 700 grand to spend, but also aren't we expecting 300 grand back from the rancheria? So we've really got $1 million to spend, is that right?
Eventually, yeah. Eventually that money would be coming back because the 600,000 that the DFC fund contributed, 300,000 was in a grant and 300,000 was in a loan. So the loan amount would come back. It was a 0% interest loan. So they're keeping the 300,000 that the DFC granted them, and then eventually they'll give back the 300,000 in a loan amount. Likewise, North Valley Community Foundation, they did a full $600,000 as a loan. So,
But I think it's important to note on that, we have not moved any of that money to Greenville Rancheria because they have not programmed on the project yet. So the money is still in the respective funds. And that's a question that Patrick and I keep asking is, do you foresee actually really needing this loan? You're probably going to be getting a fairly healthy PG&E settlement. Do you still really, I mean, and they've come back and said yes, but it'll be interesting to see when they get their PG&E.
yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to forecast. And Kim and I talked a lot about this, that, for the rancheria, they wouldn't want to assume on money that they don't have, right? So it's not the weirdest thing in the world that they are kind of aiming low with what that they could enjoy from they've already gotten their insurance, but I think from their PG&E settlement. It's not the weirdest thing that they're like, man, we're gonna get raked over the coals here, and it's not gonna work out. The trend says otherwise.
Sorry.
The trend says like that they might get a handsome settlement, and then they may not need the money that we granted and or loaned them at all, right? So that money could just come back in a windfall, like overnight.
Right. I mean, sure. I mean, like in terms of needing money and having money, I mean, I mean, if you've got more money, it's easy to have more dreams or more plans. So the more money they have, the more Rancheria will get. And for me, Rancheria is a good thing in Greenville. So if they've got $300,000 more, and that means $300,000 more healthcare for the community, great. So would we consider forgiving the 300 grand? Because personally, like, I don't think that we kind of want this back, right? If we want to get our money out to the community as fast as we can, I mean, it's not. I mean, we've been 3 years in already. It's not like we're in a big hurry, right?
Yeah.
So, but over the next 6 months, if we can deploy all the rest of that money, the 700 grand, can we forgive
I
the
think that's
300 grand
definitely a
and
question to
then we
ask
can
when we
kind of
reach that point.
tie it up?
Matt. I think what you're saying, like, I think the team would need to know more details about how their build and their finances look to make a qualified decision on that. But I think, what
Sure.
you're raising is, it is a course of action, just to forgive that loan and just say, hey, make sure you put in some bushes. Here's $300,000 for a nice sidewalk and whatever. I'm kind of being tongue in cheek here,
Sure.
but yes, I understand the point. We would just need to have a lot more information at that time about what things look like financially, timeline wise, for their build, and just really what what that money would solve for them. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
But I mean, my main point is we should aggressively try and spend it down before July, August,
Okay.
whatever you say your exit is my
Fair enough.
thinking.
Marcia, you have your hand up, and then Danny. I've got Marcia and Danny.
Yeah, it just seems to me, because of the uncertainty of the Rancheria, that we're not going to have all our money spent by July. And so that maybe we need to do a part-time thing. I don't know, maybe Taylor, he's good at doing this kind of a thing, meetings, and maybe he would want to work part-time for us and keep us all together. I don't know. We just need to see what the options are.
Yeah, 100%. And what, as this goes from a little bit more like, foggy to clear, if that's a course of action that we'd like to pursue, we can definitely go through kind of a hiring process or a vetting process so everybody can kind of feel good about what that next move is. Danny.
Yeah, I'm just kind of following up what Kim had already mentioned is, that those funds have not been transferred anywhere. They're sitting there. They're still, and we still have sight on those. They haven't really gone away, but they've been committed as a promise to support. But the promise to support what? And I still think that we need to know what we're going to support. We're not saying, oh, just go do more bushes. No, that's not satisfactory. We will want something solid. And so, but we need to move forward as if that's not there. But we need to say, if it comes to the point at the end of the day, in July or whatever, that they haven't spent it, and maybe actually, I think this time that they get a message. If it's not spent by July, if you don't have a commitment by July to utilize it, it's going away. So the people, dollars on the table. Being promised is dollars on the table, but if you don't utilize it, you have no motivation to utilize it. It's just my rainy day fund, my bucket over there that I can grab out of no matter what. But let's encourage them to utilize that funds, unless they're trying to show that they don't have funds to justify somebody else giving them more funds. I don't know what it is.
No,
Well, I'm just saying they need to be incentivized to use that. Otherwise, it's just and it's keeping us from going ahead and granting somebody else. So they need to get that message.
Yeah, fair enough. There's nothing that's occurred at all to believe that there's any sort of like, underhandedness or anything. The timeline on their build that's been taking so long, it was going through the Plumas County Planning Commission to have their special use permit amended so that they could then go through plan check and then, so on and so forth. So I anticipate that we'll see some movement here in the next couple of months because things have gone through for them.
Yeah.
And then then they'll be able to start construction this 2025 year. Once they start construction, that's when they start spending money. They start spending money. That's where people start to dig a little bit deeper in their pockets to figure out if it's this light fixture or that light fixture,
But yes, but
I got you loud and clear, Danny, and I'll
Yeah.
follow up with our points of contact at the Rancheria so we can get a more concrete assessment of where they think they are moving
Right.
forward into this year to understand.
having been one that's reconstructed a house, I knew what the budget was. I had an idea what the people were going to demand of construction. So if they've got an estimate, they should have estimate now, and they could use that money to go. I'm just saying, let's get them to commit to using it or release it so we can invest it with somebody, other people. That's all. All I want to see.
Absolutely, sounds
And
reasonable.
you're hearing me, Patrick, but I just got to say it.
Loud and
again.
clear. Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah. So those are all, so that's kind of like, seems like we've got at least a couple of like big arrows to kind of follow up on. I'll get some answers to that, and then that'll help us, I think, like I was saying, go from foggy to more clear. I can't always promise that there won't be some mud in the water there, but I think we'll get something that makes it suitable. And also, yeah, just continue to I found it's by going directly to organizations instead of just putting stuff out like in an email, but actually getting like eyeball to eyeball with people and talking to them about what their needs are. Folks have been a little bit more receptive and realizing what they can do by applying for grant funding. Because my limited experience with this over the last like year plus is like when you do like an email or just like a flyer or something, they don't realize it's them that you're talking to. Like they're like, oh, that's for somebody else. And so I've just been trying to be more intentional with some of these other 501c3s to say like, yes, like you should apply, and you can probably like your mission fits with community development or economic development, or it fits with how, whatever the case may be. And we have a lot of civic organizations that are out there that once you kind of kick over some rocks, you realize that they're there. So anyway, that was kind of the discussion that I had with the Blue Star Moms, is that they're trying to, kind of brighten up the community and kind of showcase some of our residents with their service. And they're not like out of money yet, but they're trying to do like, bake sales and stuff like that to raise money. And it's like, well, by all means continue to do that if there's certain like, smaller projects you have, but for the big thing that they want to do and to bring more emphasis and knowledge to people about, who's serving, that's like, I think that's something that the DFC might be able to contribute to for the community. And it's nested with the streetscape, with what they're trying to do with the street lights and whatnot. So anyway. All right, next on the agenda, just community member updates. I was just going to kind of go around the horn. Marcia Roby, do you have any community or committee member updates?
Nothing that I can think of.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Lida, do you have anything you'd like to share with the team?
No, you mentioned we're talking about applying for a grant, but we're in the very early stages of that, and hopefully I'll have more the next time we meet.
I have I talked to Michael Hall after you and I talked. Two other programs that he brought up was one from CAL FIRE and one from NRCS. Are you familiar with NRCS through the Forest Service?
Yes.
Okay. And then I've looked at the CAL FIRE one briefly. I have to go back through it, but the CAL FIRE one also seemed like it might be, it seemed like it would help with it wouldn't do everything, but it would help. It would assist with some of the issues in Warner Valley, but not answer all of it. But I was thinking if we could look at them and see if maybe there's a hybrid approach between NRCS and the CAL FIRE program. There might be some avenues there that could assist with your needs.
Okay, can you send me the links for the CAL FIRE program? I don't
Yes,
think I
ma'am.
have that.
Yep.
Thank you. Great.
Danny.
Yes, I have not gotten our interest payment information for January yet, so I have a little difference with the current balance that we have with the Dixie Fire Collaborative account, and it looks like it's just the interest amount, but we're doing fine. And as we say that with that, if there's about $4,400 that I believe is interest payments that I don't have confirmed at this point. But we have $752,000 approximately still in the account, uncommitted. So,
Oh,
so we're looking good. And the only expenditure we did have was the support of the light parade and the toys there. And thanks, Greg, for helping get that going. So that was.
I was just about to
support.
ask you, you did get that reimbursement off for the Russ, Peter, and Debbie?
That's been submitted and I believe the check was already cut and it shows
Okay.
up as an expense. So yes,
Great.
the reimbursement's done.
And then I have a kind of a reimbursement form that I filled out that I'll send to you, Danny, as well. I was waiting on one other item from Brooke, who used to run the website. I don't know that I'm going to get it, but I have a workaround in order to get documentation for the domain expense. But I'll send those items to you so you can review them as well.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, Greg.
I'm glad that Danny brought that up. You and I had talked about reimbursement for picking up all of the toys and stuff like that for the trailer rental and stuff. Is that still?
100%. Yeah. So just if you could send Danny and me a like just an email with what that was.
Sure.
Like with the mileage or whatever, and then I'll document it on a reimbursement form so that Danny has that just for tracking purposes. And then we'll just go from there.
And we'll tie that
you.
to the toys as well.
Yeah. And just make sure you have a mailing, like a PO box or your mailing address on there as well, Greg.
Alrighty.
Cool. Greg, do you have any updates?
No, I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Matt Fogarty, any updates for the committee?
Nothing special.
Okay, thank you. Shelby, do you have anything for the team?
I have no updates at this time.
Okay, thank you all very much. And Kim, thank you very much for joining us today. Did you have anything you wanted to share with the team?
No, I just, I will be taking the proposal from, the Boosters Club to our committee, but we always wait to see what your committee does first. And so I appreciate that discussion and, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And yeah, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Danny. And a second.
Sure, I'll second it.
Thank you, Greg. All in favor?
I
Aye.
And any opposed? All right. Hearing none. All right. Thank you very much.
So Matt, I know you had questions on a different project. Do you want to stay on the call for just a minute?
Yeah. Let's stay on the call.
Okay. Patrick, if you want to join us, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks.
Take care.
We just park.
Bye.
I